One problem with working with strings if you're trying to analyze a text is that strings are very low level. As we saw in the previous section of this lesson, when we try to split a text apart just based on white space, we end up with results that we don't necessarily want, like having punctuation marks stuck to the characters. Fortunately, Mathematica has a number of commands for working with text that are higher level than simple string processing, and we're going to look at some of those right now. One of these commands is called text words. So if I take the if I take the text about the Prague clock and I provide that as an argument to text words, I can store the result inside of the symbol clock words. And then I can use the part command to look at the first 48 words of that. So we can see here that TextWords has done a good job of splitting this text into adjacent words. It's not confused by punctuation, it's not confused by different kinds of white space, and so on. Now if we wanted to get the next words in this expression, the ones say from number 49 to number 66, we can copy our code here, paste the expression in, and then we just change this so that the first word that we're looking for is 49, and the last word that we're looking for is 66. Shift-Enter, and then here's the next part of that text. If we want to start from the back of the list and grab the words there, we can use an expression like this to get a list of the last 48 words. And pay attention here to the ordering of the arguments and to the use of the negative signs. So that's the end of this particular list of words. Sentence boundaries can be tricky to recognize because typically they end in a punctuation mark like a period or a question mark or an exclamation mark, but sometimes we use periods inside of sentences to indicate abbreviations, and there's other cases like that that make it more tricky to figure out where sentence boundaries actually are, things like quotations and so on. In Mathematica, we have a command called text sentences, which does a pretty good job of breaking things into sentences. Again, we give it our raw text, and then if we look at the first sentence here, Shift-Enter, it gives us this: the Prague astronomical clock, ... is a medieval astronomical clock, and so on and so forth. We can, once we have a list of sentences like this, again, we can ask for a particular sentence. Here's the fourth sentence, for example. Now that's at a higher level. Those commands, text words and text sentences, are at a higher level than string processing commands because they don't just know about characters, they know something about the English language. And in fact, there are commands in Mathematica that are at even higher levels than that. So for example, Mathematica has a command which is based on machine learning called find textual answer, and it will look at a text and attempt to answer a simple question. So if we give it the sentences from the Wikipedia article, we can say, when was this clock first installed? Shift-Enter. This takes a bit longer, of course, because it's actually doing a little bit of thinking. And it gives us the progress messages as usual, and it comes up with the answer 1410. Now suppose we want to know why it thinks the date 1410 is when the clock was first installed. Well, we can use the find textual answer command again with some arguments to tell us, show us the line in the text that made you think that. And there's the line right there: the clock was first installed in 1410. Now the questions don't have to be that specific, they can be more general. We can say, for example, show us 8 sentences that answer the question, what renovations were made to the clock? Shift-Enter. This takes, again, a little bit of time, but it says, it gives us the text, and it highlights the portion of that text that show us where those renovations are described. An electric clock mechanism was replaced, the last renovation, a reconstruction of the tower. In that case, it's the tower and not the clock that's being renovated. But you can see it's pretty interesting to be able to approach your texts from the perspective of a machine that's trained to do more human-like tasks.